welcome back to the Dancing Heart podcast. Today, I am so excited to introduce this week's guest, Ellisa McCoy. She is a Gene Key expert. She does human design readings and she's an Akashic Records practitioner. She's also the host of It's Happening For Me podcast. And today, guys, we're going to dive deeper into the Gene Keys, how you actually get paid for being yourself, because Ellisa is an expert in that field here. So welcome to the show, Ellisa.
Yay! Thank you, Torni. I'm so excited to be here and yeah, just super excited to connect with you.
Yeah, like I'm super excited to dive into the wisdom that you have. You help spiritual entrepreneurs to get paid to be icon in their industry. Just to start, like what is the Gene Keys for someone that never heard about that? And yeah, and how is it related to human design?
Yes. Okay. I love this question so much. I feel like I could nerd out on this forever. So I'm so excited that we're starting there. So, for all of my babes out there that are familiar with astrology and human design, the gene keys really are like it. First of all, the original messenger founder, Richard Rudd, he actually studied under Ra Uruhu, who is like the original messenger of human design. And so he was very, very connected with that system. And then he actually realized that every single gate in human design, okay, so like the two, if you're looking at like a human design body graph and you see the numbers on both sides, that some of them seemed a little bit more positive, while some of them seemed like there's a little bit more challenges associated with some of them. And he really felt like all of them kind of have these energies of like some challenges or shadows, and also like very much like gift and genius energies. And so what's really special is the gene keys really are a culmination of Western astrology, human design, the Chinese I Ching, and then also quantum physics and epigenetics. And so just like Western astrology and human design, the gene keys are based off of your birth information. So all of us have an exact map, like a hero's journey map of really like what our soul came here to do in this lifetime. So all of us are going to experience very similar themes in life, right? Like a lot of us are going to go on this journey to like find our purpose and to fall in love and to have a career, right? And hopefully a career in something that we love doing, making money in the world. But we're all have like a very specific lens that these like challenges are gonna kind of like experience in our life, which is kind of also ties it back to like astrology. And so the gene keys really are again like this map to our hero's journey, and there's kind of like three pathways to enlightenment. So the first pathway would be through the self, which is really discovering like what our purpose is, right? Like who are we here to be in this lifetime? Our life's work, like what is the work that we're really here to do in this lifetime? Our radiance, which is what really keeps us like healthy and thriving so that we can be stable in our purpose and live that out. And then the second pathway to enlightenment is called the Venus sequence, which is all about love and relationships. And so, what happens so often, on the spiritual journey, which I'm assuming like a lot of us babes here are very like spiritual girlies, it's like you have this spiritual awakening, right? And what can kind of happen first is you kind of feel a little bit isolated, right? It's like now you're not really connecting so much with your old friends or maybe even your family members. Maybe you're starting to feel a little bit isolated, a little bit different because you have all of these like awakenings, and like you're like, wait, I'm learning so much about myself, and like now I don't really feel like I fit in like my current place in life. And what can happen is if we stay there, like that's not the whole point of a spiritual journey, right? It's not to be isolated. It's not to just stay by ourselves or like stay on a rooftop meditating our whole lives, right? And like really escaping people. It's really to come back now and integrate back into real life in this 3D world and realize like, oh, actually relationships are my biggest teacher, and relationships are going to show me like where my shadows are and the things that I really need to still integrate and like learn about myself and how to keep my heart open to love and friendships, romantic friendships, clients, right? And then we go through that path, and then now it's like, okay, I'm super stable in my purpose. I'm stable in my relationships. Now I want to take all of this wisdom and like really use my gifts and my talents and go out into the world and have a business, right? This could be for people if you are an entrepreneur, but even if you're still a babe who works in a 9 to 5 or a service industry job, whatever whatever way that you find that you love to like make money and really thrive in. The way that we are meant and designed to make the most money and have the most opportunities is by using our specific gifts and genius in exchange for service, right? In exchange for money, opportunities, wealth, prosperity. And so that's kind of like the third pathway is almost like this pathway of service back into the world. So now we're all leaders, right? Like now we've stabilized in our purpose, we're stable in our relationships, and now we're also a leader and we're kind of changing the world in our unique way. And that's kind of like what the Gene Keys are. It kind of gives us a map to that path.
Wow, I love the perspective that you explained this from. I just got a new picture, like visualization in my mind when you're like, it makes so much sense. And like you said, we want, like, our dream is to be who you are, live your purpose, have the perfect, relationships, and then get paid for what you love to do. And that is also what you are the expert in your field. Like, hey, I can help you with that through this specific gene keys. And when you were talking about you find your purpose and then you have these challenges in your life, like you have done like thousands of readings by now. And what is the main challenge you see that shows up in people's life in order to, like fully step into their purpose and visibility?
I Yes, I love this question. So it's so cool because all of us, so first of all, there's 64 gene keys, which are also connected to the 64 gates in human design. And so every single gene key has a shadow, a gift, and a city. And essentially what that is, I like to explain it. I don't know if you are familiar or if you also love like Abraham Hicks, like work, but essentially if we look at the emotional scale of emotions, right? Like the lowest frequency of emotion is fear, right? That's like very dense, very like dense fear-based energy. And then as you kind of move up this like emotional guidance scale to the very highest, like most lightest emotion is love. It's joy and love. And so that's kind of like how the gene keys work as well. It's like if we're looking at one gene key, the shadow frequency is always rooted in fear. So it's going to be very dense. And this is kind of like where we're a little bit stuck in kind of like victimhood, right? It's like everything's happening to me. I feel like, why does everything suck? And like everyone else is prosperous and like everyone else is doing really good, but like it's so hard for me. Like, why is this happening? That's very much kind of like being in that like fear-based energy. It always roots back down to fear. And then the way to really alchemize that and step into our genius is to realize like, oh, actually I can be of service and like love to myself and other people. And we kind of stop being like so in our head of like, why is this happening to me, and kind of look at like the lesson of like, what is this trying to teach me and how can I actually grow and evolve from this. And that's when we kind of go into this like gift energy. And then the city, which is like the highest frequency, it's like very mystical. It's very kind of like hard to describe in human language, but and we're never gonna like live in the city. Like the city frequencies are like the very high mystical light frequencies, but we are going to experience that like from time to time, right? Just from like being in our work and being fully embodied in our life. And so what you said of like, okay, what is like the main thing that I notice in most people, like either in their purpose or in their business, right? It's always like there's two placements that I always look at. So if we're talking about more like business, it's like there's this sphere called the vocation, okay? Our vocation sphere. And this is your greatest core wound that you've had your entire life, okay? So from the moment you were born, like actually like even conception, born, all the way up into where you are right now and for your whole life, you're going to have this like same core wound that you're just going to kind of keep like alchemizing over and over again. And so it's never like we do shadow work and then we're like, oh, I'm healed forever and now I'm just like never going to experience the wound again, right? It's like we're always going to experience some level of it, but having awareness of it and then being able to understand like, oh, this is just what's coming up for me right now. This is my pattern. This is just fear. It's much easier to like then use the tools that you have to work through it and go on. And so from the vocation, your greatest core wound actually turns into your greatest talent, which is now what you're here to go give to the collective in exchange for prosperity, money, opportunities. And so it really does take a huge leap of courage to be like, okay, I'm going to take everything that I've learned and now I'm going to go share this with other people to help them. And that really is kind of like our specific flavor of like what we kind of give to the collective. That's like why our soul came here is like, okay, you've overcame this and you know every single flavor what it feels like. For example, mine is Gene Key 48 and adequacy. So it's like I know every single flavor of what it feels like to not know enough or to not be prepared enough, right? So I know a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs can relate to this where it's like, oh, I feel like I need more certifications and more classes and I need to know everything. And like, who am I to be a teacher? Who am I, right? But if you have this activated in your chart, you 100% know enough, right? Because we tend to be over prepared, right? And so then it's like having the courage to go and tap into the gift, which is resourcefulness. And so resourcefulness is really tapping into this well of depth within me that's like, okay, no matter what, I know that I'll be able to draw on like exactly what I need in the client session, right? Like I'll know exactly what I need to say here, exactly what I need to do here. And so I can stop having this fear of just like not knowing enough and just actually have the courage to take action on my dreams and then everything will unfold. And so like every person has a specific flavor right there.
Yes. Oh God, I love this. And like you said, it's not how we are like over, like once you have overcome your shadow, it's like it's done. Like it's an in process. It takes time. I mean, and I think I don't know exactly my vocation sphere that you were talking about, but I'm sure it's related to my voice. And I know that it's my fear of being seen and the fear of visibility and just putting yourself out there and being seen for who you are. I don't know if that's related to any of the gene keys that you can think about, but I'm sure there's a wound a lot of people can relate to, and especially for entrepreneurs.
Yes. And um, there's actually one that really comes to mind right now. So I don't know if this is specifically the one that you have, but I think it would be really cool to like mention is we have Gene Key 8, okay? And Gene Key 8, the gift is style. And style is really being able to fully be your individual self and like just go out there and like share, right? Share from your voice. And it's also in the throat center. So it does have to do with speaking, okay? And so it's like having the courage to just like say the things that like might ruffle some feathers, but like you need to say that, right? Because the shadow is mediocrity. And the whole collective, not the whole collective, but we can think of like a majority of the collective right now is living in this shadow of mediocrity, which really shows up as like kind of living a hollow life because it's the fear of going against the status quo. It's the fear of getting out of the comfort zone. It's the fear of like especially I know like especially in America, like we have this like American dream, which is like you have to go to college and then you have to get married and then you have to have children and then you have to like work a 9 to 5, climb the corporate ladder, retire at 65. That's what success looks like. And then so many people follow that model and are not happy, right? Because they're not actually expressing themselves. They're not taking this leap of faith to actually jump out of this like status quo, out of their comfort zone and actually think about like, what do I actually want to do? Like, what do I actually like and have some freaking individuality and like style. So I love that gene key because it just makes me think of that all of the time. Because it really is like a really big fear we all have. Like, I also constantly am just like working against this one to be like, okay, how can I actually jump out of my comfort zone and not be so afraid to be different than everyone else?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us can relate to that. And there is something that we have to just overcome every single day. Like you just have to, it's kind of like building a muscle. Like you're going to the gym, like, hey, today you can do like 2 pounds, and then the next day you do because you're growing your muscles. But
Mhm.
you were mentioning like the first thing, you said vocation, and then you didn't mention what was the second?
Oh, yes. Okay. So if we're thinking about purpose now, right? So that's more like a little bit business focused, but if we're thinking about like also purpose, right? Like having the courage to like be living our purpose, one thing that I really like to look at is like what is your radiance sphere, which is in the genius sequence. So there's all, I don't really say this, but there's also kind of like three sequences or three paths that we kind of like move through in the Gene Keys journey. And this is all happening in the quantum. So it's not like we actually have to like, oh, I have to like contemplate this and then like spend 2 days or 10 years here and then I can move on. It's kind of all happening at the same time. But there is also kind of like an order that we can follow. And so our radiance is really what keeps us like healthy and thriving physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And when we are in the shadow of this, it's going to be very hard to kind of like have the energy to even like live our purpose or the strength and like the health, right? Because we also hear a lot of this, like a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs, or even babes just like on the spiritual entrepreneurial journey, even if it's not entrepreneurial, a lot of times what leads to our awakenings is like health stuff, right? Because like the body is waking us up to tell us like something is not right. Like you're not on track with what you're supposed to be doing. Like your soul really wants to do this, but you're like ignoring it and you just keep doing this thing that you don't really want to do. So then a lot of us can develop like health stuff, um, even like mentally, emotionally, physically. And so I really love looking at the radiance because it also talks about like the quality of the relationships almost that you have in your life will be a direct reflection of like your health as well, which is really interesting. And we all kind of have a specific flavor here. For me, friendship is, I'm a line four, so like friendship is everything. Everything that I do, I almost have to feel like I have this like level of friendship, like with my boss, with my clients, with my friends. And if I take a look at it and look at the quality of friends in my life, it'll be directly related to my health. And before I had my spiritual awakening, I was like very lost in life. I feel like I suffered a lot from anxiety, social anxiety. I'm also sober. I'm also a sober girl. So before it was like a lot of like alcohol abuse and just like really using these things to kind of numb myself because I was not on track with my purpose. And so it's kind of cool now to like know that like retrospectively and look at the quality of friendships in my life and my health is thriving because of that. So I feel like that's very important on the purpose path.
Wow. It's so valuable to know all of that, And then it just helps you, just as a reminder that, okay, now you are, you feel that you are on track and connected more to your purpose. And I'm sure,
Mhm.
like, okay, so you have vocation and then you have a purpose, like radiance. I know that you're helping spiritual entrepreneurs to get paid for who they are. Like, is there any place in your gene keys that you can tell, like, this is how you get paid for being who you are? Is there a
Yes, yes,
secret?
yes, yes, yes. Okay, I'm going to give you two really good ones. So, okay,
Perfect.
let's talk about offers. Okay, so let's talk about offers and like offer creation. Um, there's so much information, right, from like business coaches online. Like traditional business coaches really teach you, well, at least in my case, I've taken a lot of programs, a lot of certifications, and I always got this advice of like, you need to sit down and create like a client avatar, right? Like, you need to write down like, what is their gender? What is their income? Where do they live? What do they like to do? And and also like business plan, like come up with a 5-year business plan, a 10-year business plan. I had such a hard time with that. Like I literally couldn't figure it out. And then I would just like not do anything. So I'm like, I don't know. Like I don't know how to like figure this out or like, and really we're not really supposed to really come up with that from our mind. Like really what we're here to do is kind of like take what I said of the vocation, right, which is like our greatest core wound. We alchemize that into our greatest talent. And that is really what we're going to get paid for because ultimately the thing that you're the most equipped to be like a teacher of or a leader of, a mentor of, is going to be the thing that you struggled with the most because no one can relate to like their client more than someone who has overcame that thing a million different times, right? But we think I'm not perfect at this thing. There's no way that I could teach this or like who am I to be a leader when really like that is the exact thing. So it's just like really rewarding to work with clients and like open their eyes to like, oh my God, this thing that you thought like made you not a leader or like not a mentor is actually the thing. So like that's the first part. And then the second part, if we're talking about like offer creation, right? A lot of people are like, oh, like there's advice like, oh, you first need to start with one to one and like, really learn how to work with like one person. And then once you do good, then like maybe move to like group work. And like, oh, you can only scale a business if you have a membership and just all of these like limiting beliefs, right? Where really, absolutely not. Like, whatever you feel the most excited and the most lit up to do is what you're meant to do. And also, your gene keys specifically tell you the exact size of group that feels the most natural and like the most rewarding for you to kind of like teach in. So if we look at the culture sphere, and I know we don't have visuals, so I'll just tell babes in case like you look up your own chart. But if you look at your culture, um, sphere in the Gene Keys, it'll say culture. There's going to be a number and then a dot and then another number. So, for example, like 39.1 or like 39.2. What we're going to be looking to the right of the decimal. So whatever, it's going to be a number 1 through 6. Okay. So this is going to tell us the size of group that your soul is really here to like guide and lead. And also I want to preface this by saying like, take this with a grain of salt. Like if you're like, no, Alyssa, like you're telling me that my soul wants to do this, but I really feel like this, then like listen to your soul. But this gives all of my clients like a huge sigh of relief. Okay, so if you have a line 1 here, then you're the individual, which means that it's really great for solo entrepreneurship. You do really well working alone, like your energy just thrives like working alone, and also influencing people at an individual level. So that means like, for example, Richard Rudd on the Gene Keys, right? Like he has his website like genekeys.com. He has so many beautiful like courses and like audios that he individually sat down and recorded, but it's still reaching millions of people, right? Because when I go and I purchase something from there, I feel like he's just directly talking into my ears, like at the individual level, right? Like it feels very individualized. And so that's a great way for someone with a line 1 to scale is to, you might be creating stuff more in your own space, and it might be courses, it might be recorded type of things, right? But you're really here to just like channel all of your stuff into that. And then when people work with you, they feel like they're getting a very individualized attention. It's not going to feel like generic and just like this is for everyone. If you're a line 2 here, then you are partnership. So you do really, really well like one-to-one. So this could be with like having a business partner. This like if you're a podcast host, this could be like having a podcast co-host because and this could look a lot like really thriving in one-to-one like coaching, like just having one-on-one clients. The reason for this is because you go very, very deep with people and that like relational going back and forth, also being able to share like your like side of things is very, very fulfilling for someone who is a line 2 here. And with that being said, it would actually be super unfulfilling for them to almost have this like huge like 100,000 like audience where they're kind of like speaking to 100,000 people, but there's not that like one-to-one going back and forth. It's just not going to feel fulfilling for them. And also, it doesn't mean that you can't scale one-to-one because you can absolutely scale and have very high level one-to-one mentorship. So none of these are meant to be like a limit on like success or like money. Okay, and then a line 3 is really here to be like the unit. So they really thrive in like 3 to 15 is like a really magical number for them. So this could be someone who really loves having like a mastermind with like your intimate 3 to 15-ish people. It could look like hosting retreats, like in-person retreats, and really having it be around like that number would feel really good for you. And the reason for this is because you really learn from like a dynamic space, right? So it's like this, like everyone's sharing, but like it's still small enough to where like everyone knows each other. So it's like still intimate, but like there's a dynamism of like everyone sharing different experiences and people learning from different things. And like you're able to kind of like jump around and like just be this like fairy who just is like, you know, loving leading the space. And so for you, if you're a line 3, the one-to-one intimacy can feel uncomfortable. And so it can kind of feel like, oh, like this is where a lot of my babes who aren't line 2s, but like they are in the coaching industry, they never like loved one-to-one. Like they kind of dreaded it. And they're like, am I not meant to be a coach? Because I low-key am like dreading getting on these calls. And it's just like, no, your energy just works differently. Like you might not be meant to have this very intimate relationship. You might thrive in this like group of like 3 to 15 where it's like all of you are kind of like there and like you're still the leader, but it's not this very intimate exchange, if that makes sense. And then a line 4 is the networker. So if you're a line 4, you really are here to like network with people. So this would be like going on podcasts, getting in front of other people's audiences that you really like relate to. Line 4 is also related to the heart chakra. So it's very like love and like feelings. And like you're really someone who connects people and is like a bridge builder, this like harmonizer. And so you're going to make the most money and get the most clients really from like referrals, like again, being in other people's audiences, being like a guest expert in like someone else's program, and really kind of like getting clients that way is going to feel super beneficial for you because you really are here to build relationships. And so for a lot of my clients who are line 4s here, but they're kind of like lone wolfing it, right? And they feel very isolated on this spiritual path. This is where I'm like, girl, like for the next 6 months, like we need to just work on building relationships and not coming from like a creepy place of like, I need to get something from someone. It's like, it's completely not like that. It's just like, no, like you thrive from other people like experiencing your magic and then being like, oh my God, like you have to get with this girl. Like she will literally change your life. And like it's very this like it's just like a beautiful like synergy that really is like for a line four. And then a line five, I always like to say that these are like the Tony Robbins and like the Oprah Winfreys of the world because they're very like global leaders. So they are here to speak on stages of thousands, millions of people. Now, if someone has like a fear of public speaking, there's different ways that we can work through this. So like also when I'm saying this and you're hearing yours, you might have a lot of fears come up and like that's totally normal too because you're like, oh my fucking God, like I'm actually meant for like this, which can be scary. So that's where like coaching comes in, right? To like really work through this stuff. But I always say if someone truly does not want to be like a speaker and like travel and like maybe you're like, I don't want to travel. I like would rather be at home, then think YouTube, right? Think like having like a huge presence online where like you are impacting thousands, millions of people. You're not having these very deep, intimate relationships. Like think about Tony Robbins. Like at this point in his career, he probably doesn't do a lot of like one-to-one work. If he does, it's like minimal and obviously it's going to be like really expensive because his time and his energy serves best when he is speaking to a crowd of strangers. Like that is just like line fives are like the most leaders. They're the most we're all leaders, but they're the most like innate authority. It's just there and they do really, really good in impacting strangers and not making it so much about themselves. Like, of course, they still share their story, but there is kind of like a projection field that line fives have. So, like, they're just like, people just perceive you as a leader and you just do really well speaking to so many people. And then the last one is our line sixes, and they're really here to impact people like at a system level. So they're here to kind of like change systems. So, for example, if they work in like education, like something that they do is going to like somehow change education at a systematic level, or if they work in entrepreneurship, they're going to somehow at this core level change entrepreneurship. And again, they can kind of work in any size of group, but it's like their impact that they have on the world is really changing things at a systematic level. And sometimes line sixes are like the hardest to kind of like explain or conceptualize, but their work really is meant to be like at a pretty grand scale. And so I feel like this always gives so many clients just like oh my God, okay, like I don't have to do what I thought I had to do to attain success. It can actually look exactly like what feels so good to me, and that is where I'll make the most money.
I love that. Thank you for taking us through all of the six different types because it's so
Mhm.
valuable to know that. And I know that being in the spiritual entrepreneur and just being an entrepreneur in general, and you look at what everybody else is doing in order to obtain success, and we tend to like compare each other to like, oh my God, what is it not working for me? And then no, because it's not supposed to work for you. You're supposed to do it in your own way. And I know that you also do, I know that you do your business in your way. And I think it's so fascinating with you, Ellisa, because I know you are an entrepreneur and you also have your corporate business. Like you are also working in corporate. And most of
Mhm.
the people is like, no, I don't want to work in corporate, but you actually love that for you. Like, is that in your gene keys too?
Yes, like I really feel like being such a voice for people who um like when we're entrepreneurs, right? And like we're so excited to put our soul gifts into the world. Something that can happen is like we hear a lot of rhetoric around like, "Oh, if you really are serious about your business, then like you need to quit your job, right? Like you need to quit your job, you need to go all in. You need to be super serious." And what can happen is I've seen this with a lot of clients as well, is like when you completely like cut off any source of income and you expect your business, especially if it's a new business, right? If you expect your baby business to pay your bills, to pay your rent, what it does to your nervous system is just like so like crazy, right? That it can actually repel a lot of success and like or repel a lot of things from coming in because business is innately spiritual, it's innately energetic, right? And so if we need something so bad to just even be able to pay our rent, it is like this like grip on something that is just going to push our manifestations away. And so I always tell people like if you absolutely hate your job and like it's draining you, you have no energy, then 100% I would find something else while you're building your business. But then there's also people that are just like, girl, like I'm not like my boyfriend, for example. He's an entrepreneur as well, and like he's a manifesting generator, and there's so much in his design where like he cannot work for someone else. Like he just can't. Like he's tried so many times, and he's found his ultimate success from like him taking the leap and just completely like having nothing else but needing to be successful, and that drives him, and so it worked really well for his energy and everything about his human design, everything about his gene keys. For me, that's why I like to say like everyone's so different. So for the babes that, but I feel like there's more kind of like people talk more about it online of like of kind of romanticizing like quitting everything and just like going all in your business. So I kind of like to be this other like force that's like, no, you can literally find a job that you absolutely love. Like I did have a time in my corporate job where I was miserable because I was working in a position that just was not aligned for me. And so then when I literally manifested the role that I have right now where I work in recruiting. So again, it's a very individualized supporter role. Like, cause I'm a line one, so I'm like the individual. So I do really good with solo entrepreneurship, very good with like being in my own role, my own contributor. And so I found a job where it's like, oh my God, I literally have like all parts of my design filled. Like I'm thriving as this recruiter. I am like building a legacy, building like momentum here. And then I have so much energy to go and work on my business outside of that because it's not draining me. I'm also a generator. So like I get generated from like doing things that I feel good. And my life's work in the Gene Keys is Gene Key 54 aspiration. So it's all about climbing like the material ladder and the spiritual ladder. So I love just like doing a great job, like, you know, hitting goals, hitting numbers, like all of those things just feel so good to me. And then also being able to like help people start new beginnings by like starting their careers feels really good. And then I'm able to like bring that over into my business. So yeah, it's definitely in my gene keys and my human design to like thrive.
Wow, I love that you are able to have a corporate career and then you have a spiritual business on, that you are balancing that. And like you said, you're meant to do that. That is how you thrive, and you're doing both. And I love that you're an example of you can be happy doing this and that. It can coexist. And I don't know a lot of people that makes this like coexisting and loving both of them. Like, and that makes you thrive. I'm just very curious about that.
Yes, and it honestly really is so crazy because it's been years that I've like really learned so much about myself and figured out like what do I thrive in. And for a long time, I really wasn't happy because before I switched over to recruiting, I was actually a manager and I actually led a team in the quick lube industry. And so I was responsible for a team of like 10 to 12 people. We're doing oil changes. It's a full like 15-minute oil change like facility. So we're like getting guests in and out. It's very fast paced. I'm working with so many different people and so many things in my design. It just like it clashes. So I'm a single definition in human design, also the line one, like individual culture. So for me, I just work so well, Torny, like in my own energy. And like when I constantly have like 10 people that are like I'm running the ship, right? And I have 10 people that are like, where do I go? What do I do? And then I'm also trying to make sure the guest is having the best experience and also like undefined head, undefined ajna. So I'm like, I literally could feel and pick up on everyone's thoughts because that's another thing about human design is like, also like spiritual gifts. I'm just like very in tune. So like I can literally like read people's minds essentially and also feel everything that everyone is feeling. So like the stress, the overwhelm, the like urgency, just all of these things. And so my nervous system was literally shot. Like that's how I got like my health issues that really started to tick off because it was like, girl, you're not aligned. Like for example, I haven't had an eczema breakout in years, but I had really bad eczema on my hands, and this happened during COVID. And so during COVID, we were considered essential workers, so we were still working while the whole world was shutting down. Like we were still working in, I was working in Bakersfield at the time, so it was like 110 degrees outside, like summers. Like we're working outside in the heat, underneath hoods of cars, where like underneath the hood it's like 200 plus degrees. We had to wear full PPE because we didn't really know. Like this was when COVID just started, so like you have to wear the mask, you have to wear the gloves. And so I was working like 10-hour shifts with a mask outside in the heat, like literally having heat poisoning, I feel like every day, just constant migraines. My hands were so raw from the eczema because I had to wear gloves every day. And so it was just like the sweat and the nitrile gloves were just like, it was horrendous. And I would go home every single day and just like cry like to my boyfriend and my mom of like, I hate my life. Like this job is so overwhelming. I'm like literally have migraines all the time. My eczema is so bad. I'm so stressed out. I was really underweight because I just like also wasn't like having time to even like eat lunch. And it was just like scattered. People want this. I want this. I'm feeling everything. And it was just horrible. So I was like, okay, I literally can't do this anymore. And on paper, that was kind of like the trajectory of my career because I had graduated from college in business management. And so I was already in a leadership role. And then the next step would be to like be an area manager. So I was going to keep moving up and I was making the most money I ever made. But I just like it was horrible. Like the only thing that I liked about being a manager and like a leader was really connecting with my team, but I found that I liked talking to them about like their relationships and giving them like advice more like on that side of things, which is very much more like coach energy, you know? And like teaching them about like how to de-stress and at the same time I was just feeling really overwhelmed. So I actually was going to quit and I finally was like, okay, I'm going to take the leap. I'm just going to go home and apply to like all of these office admin jobs, which I had no idea why, but I was like, for some reason I just need to be an office admin. I didn't even know what that was or because I had never worked in corporate before. So I went and applied to like all of these jobs, like 30 jobs, and I was going to take a huge pay cut. I was like, I'm going to have to go back to minimum wage, like, but I have no other choice. My health is like really bad. And I ended up manifesting the next day I went into work and our VP of operations sent out an email that they have an opening for an office admin for San Diego, which is where I was now living at the time. And I was like, "Oh my God." So I just like applied to it, got the job, and then all of a sudden now I had like nights and weekends opened up and I was like back to a normal schedule. I was working as an individual contributor, like in my own office, and like just I literally thrived. That's when I started doing like all of the coaching certifications, learning everything about myself, all of the modalities, and then now I manifested this like recruiting role where it's even more like just aligned with my energy and like working with people. And yeah, and now I can literally thrive and do my business. But there's no way I could have been an entrepreneur when I was still in that role because I was literally just like depressed, anxious, health issues. There's absolutely no way I could have ever supported another person when I wasn't yet stable in my purpose. So that really kind of had to happen first.
Exactly. Wow. But everything is happening for a reason. And then it just forced
Yeah.
you to get another job. And then you realize that, okay, this feels better. And then you got into recruitment and now you have time and energy and like thriving doing both of them. And I love that. And one thing that I love about what you are like sharing in your social is that you stop being smart to try to be smart online to and then things were actually moving for you when you just found your own voice of sharing things. So what is your
Yes.
insight? Like I'm curious to hear about it.
Yes. Okay. So I love this so much and I actually have a workshop that I did that's actually on my Instagram right now that's for free and it's called the 11 Voices of the Throat Center. And so this is I love this workshop because I talk about how all of us have a very unique way that we're here to really speak and communicate, right? If we think about the Throat Center, it's all about like communication, speaking, but also manifestation, bringing things into action. And for so long, I was like, oh, well, spiritual people are like really enlightened, right? And like they're very like calm and like, I don't know, like intelligent, wise. But I was like, the way that I really talk is like I say fuck a lot. And I'm just like very like, I just don't sound super smart. And my whole life I had this like weird thing around like thinking that I was like dumb or something. And when I actually learned through like my gene key, and also I have this in my throat center, it's Human Design Gate 23 and also Gene Key 23. And it's all about assimilation. And so essentially it's like about being simple, like coming back to simplicity. The shadow is complexity. And when we're being in this like shadow of complexity, it's where I was thinking like, oh, I need to sound smart. I need to sound like a teacher. I need to sound like I'm wise and I know what I'm talking about. But when we're coming from that place, like we're coming from the mind and not the heart. So nothing actually translates. Like I can say the most perfect thing and write the beautifulest caption or whatever, but people can't feel what I'm actually saying. And also it's really overcomplicating things. And that's kind of like where I didn't find a lot of success when I first kind of started coaching with human design is I kind of try to be more like a educator and a teacher. And it just wasn't really resonating. But then when I realized, like, oh, I can actually, like, simplicity actually isn't a shadow. It's actually a beautiful way of where I can just speak from the heart and just say what I want to say and kind of like take out the parts that actually make sense to me and just use those parts out there. If that makes sense, then it just
Yeah.
resonates more with people. And so I always like to share that with a lot of my clients that are teachers and that also use different modalities is like we don't need to what I learned is that we don't need to over explain things to people to convince them to work with us. If we just spoke to the actual person that we want to work with and just knew and assumed that they're smart, they know exactly what we're talking about, that is the most magnetic thing, and like that is what will attract people.
This is so interesting, you know? And I'm just curious, when did you see like the shift in your business? Because we all have started at one point, you know? Like yeah, when was the moment that you felt like things were more flowing, when you became more like magnetic and people were more drawn to you? When did you have that shift?
Yes. Okay. So one of my it's when I really started embodying my gene keys. So another huge part of my design is also like the line. I'm a 2-4 generator in human design. So it's like the 2 and the 4. The 4 really is the networker. And so it really is like having these relationships and like really coming from a place of service from like the heart chakra. And like when I stopped coming from my head of like, okay, how can I create an offer to make someone want to buy this? Because like I knew that the work was good, right? And like I knew what I had was like very valuable, but I was always trying to come from a place of like, how would I get someone to like want this? Or how would I get someone to buy this? Instead, when I came from this place of like very heart-centered networker, or like, yeah, like very heart-centered and also like this networker energy of like, wait, instead of trying to convince someone, if I just speak to who I really freaking want to help and see that my greatest, again, inadequacy, my coming back to like my vocation, never feeling good enough, never feeling ready enough, it all clicked to me that I'm like, oh, I'm really here to help other spiritual entrepreneurs who are so freaking gifted. Like in all of the certifications and programs that I took, I was just peers with like the most incredibly gifted, talented, heart-led people. And I saw all of us struggling in terms of like trying to like make our businesses work, to get clients, right? And to put ourselves out there, to have confidence, to be visible and really like put ourselves out there. And then I would see on TikTok these like fake, I don't know if any of you guys have TikTok, but like these fake people that message you and they just have the audacity to be like, "Hey, I'm picking up on your energy. Like this is the link if you know you want me to like read your energy." And they're obviously scammers, right? Like I'm talking about the ones that are actually scammers. And I'm like, how do these scammers have the audacity to rip off people and make so much money from being scammers? But people who are actually really heart-led and actually have gifts, like why are we not the ones that are the loudest and the most out there? And so I kind of like took that all in and realized like, oh yeah, like I also have felt the most inadequate on my journey of wanting to be seen or feeling like I know enough. So I'm just going to embody like I have resourcefulness. I know what I'm talking about, and kind of like leading with this confidence of like, no, this is exactly who I want to help, exactly how I help them. And that energetic shift kind of like behind the scenes is like what turns on the faucets, because then any offer that you create, it's like you're obsessed with it. You know that people want it. Instead of like, how can I create something people want? It's like, no, I know people want this. I'm obsessed with this. I know they're going to be obsessed. And then that's kind of how it changed.
Wow, yeah, implementing your gene keys, right?
Hmm.
I will link your page in the show notes as well, and also the link to your masterclass that you said was free. And I think that's going to be very helpful. Gives you just more permission to be more of who you came here to be. Just like one sentence can be enough to turn like your energy around. Let us step up into that.
Yes, exactly. And especially the other thing I noticed too is like because we're all kind of doing the same thing, like in terms of like, oh, we have very similar modalities, or maybe we're helping solve the same problem. Some people, again, we can view that as competition or like that things are oversaturated, but really tapping into the gene keys and like your human design, you realize like, no, literally we can all win because we all have a fractal line of like souls that incarnated into this lifetime to learn from us. So there can be a million astrologers, a million people who do human design, a million energy workers, and every single person can thrive when they're just just being themselves, because they're going to attract those specific people that really want to learn it from them. But when we don't realize that, I've personally felt this energy of like, wait, I don't want other people doing the same thing to think like, who am I to like also be claiming that I do this? It's this really weird thing where we really get in our heads of thinking like, who am I to like take up space or also do this? So many other people are doing it, but it's like they're not doing it how you're meant to do it. So it's just like you said, 100% having the permission slip to just do it your way.
Yeah, and I saw something the other day. It was like, no one's gonna come and save you, and no one is going to stop you either. And I just love that. Just do it. And
Hmm.
yeah, we are all here to with our own unique flavor. And like you said, the market is never saturated.
Yeah, like
Saturated.
oversaturated. Hmm.
Like we need
Hmm.
you. You are put on this earth to do your thing and do your magic, and nobody else can do it in the way that you are here to do it. So you just
Hmm.
go do your thing. And I just wanted to tap into the Akashic Records. Like, I know you're a Akashic Records practitioner, and I don't know, like, we are in this time, like, there's so many changes right now with all the planetary shifts happening this year and over the past years, and we are in the year of the fire horse. What is like your intuition of how things are moving forward for the rest of this year and the years coming? Like, what can we expect to see more of?
Oh, I love that. So I feel like for me, I'm always guided back, whether I'm in like my own records or reading for clients. It's like always guided back to this idea of like endless potential and like love. Like I really do see things very, very positively. And I feel like all of us, like, if there's limitless potentials, right? Like there's limitless future potentials. Why do people focus so much on like one potential of like negative, right? That's why also I don't love negative predictive astrology or things that are like predicting the like end of times, and like it's like you're predicting one possibility out of infinite possibilities. Why the hell would we focus on this like negative thing, even though a lot of negative stuff is happening, right? But I feel like it's all happening really to be brought to the light so that we really can see what's really going on, and then all of us stepping into our own individual like contributor roles of like, okay, because another thing that can happen too is like being a sensitive person. It is really hard to like be sensitive and see the injustices that are happening to humanity and to feel like, what's the point? Like, who am I? What's the point of me pursuing my purpose? What's the point of me like charging for my gifts if the world is just going to shit? But if we actually all like did our part of like bringing more love, beauty, peace, hope, like all of your beautiful gifts and like geniuses, even from like a Gene Keys perspective into the world, like we are the puzzle pieces that are going to change things. So I always really focus on like, oh my God, like the future is bright, the future is beautiful. And if we can just focus on ourselves and like really giving our gifts to the world, that is like the best thing we can do than like perpetuate any like fear or like doomy energy.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I love that. There, like I said, there are infinite possibilities. Why would you just focus on this one timeline that's in it? Like when there are
Hmm.
like so many others, positive expansion and potential there. Thank you for sharing that, Alyssa. And is there anything else that's on your heart, on your dancing heart?
Oh, I love that on the dancing heart. I would just say that in these times, again, like it's like the most important thing that we can do is know ourselves and really like develop a very deep relationship to ourselves, to our inner knowing, to what our gifts are, our genius, that because there is just so much information online. There's so much conflicting information, and it can be very overwhelming. So I would just say like a huge tip that I have done that I love doing that a mentor once taught me is like to mute everyone that is kind of doing the same thing as you. For example, if you're an astrologer, literally, and you want to be successful in your business and you want to grow your success and you want to be in your creativity and you want more abundance for yourself, go right now and every single astrologer that you follow, just go to their profile and mute them. So you're not unfollowing them, but all you're doing is you're making it so like their stuff isn't constantly popping up on your feed, because what that does is it just like it creates like distractions, comparison, and then we start thinking like, wait, what I'm talking about like not good enough, or she's talking about this, should I also talk about this? If you can mute every coach, every person in your industry, so then when you feel inspired and you're like, hey, I wonder how that person's doing or what she's up to, go search for her and look for her stuff, like her stuff, engage, comment. But then you're not inundated every time you open your app with what everyone else is doing. That's only going to make you feel more behind and like you're not doing a great job in your own business. So that's one of the best pieces of advice. And then like now your blinders are on, you're opening up your, apps, you're using social media in a productive way of like, what do I want to bring today? How can I step into my iconic energy? What do I want to share with people? Share that and then go live your life off of line. I feel like that's like the best thing that we can do for ourselves.
That's just an amazing tips. Thank you for sharing that. And if people want to connect with you, they're like curious about Gene Keys and they want to know how they can get paid for being their iconic self. Like, where can I connect with you and find you?
Yay! Yes, so you can go to my Instagram. Everything's on my Instagram at I am Ellisa May. And I have a membership, a Healing Bubble membership, which is for spiritual entrepreneurs who really want to work on their energetic hygiene and just like feel and embody this like iconic frequency so that you can attain all of your business goals and life goals. And I'm relaunching my signature mentorship, which is called The Portal of You. So that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks, which I'm super excited for. And yeah, and then of course, Gene Key readings. If you ever want a Gene Keys reading or an Akashic Records reading, all of that is on my link in bio.
Perfect. I will share everything in the show notes too, so it's easy to find you. Amazing. Thank you so much, Ellisa, for coming on and sharing all your expertise and knowledge and beautiful energy with us here on the Dancing Heart podcast.
Thank you. I'm so honored. Honestly, it was so great to connect with you again. And yeah, this was just like such an honor. So I thank you.